नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणी निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणी। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम राम हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम हरे हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय राधा रमन हरि गोविंद जय जय राधा रमन हरि गोविंद जय जय राधा रमन हरि गोविंद जय जय हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम हरे हरे जय राधा गिरधरी राधे जय राधा गिरधरी राधे जय राधा गोपीनाथ राधे जय राधा गोपीनाथ राधे जय राधा रस बिहारी राधे जय राधा रस बिहारी राधे जय राधा मदन मोहन राधे जय राधा मदन मोहन राधे जय राधा कुंज बिहारी राधे जय राधा कुंज बिहारी राधा कुंज बिहारी राधे। जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे। जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे। जय राधा बांके बिहारी राधा बांके बिहारी राधे। जय राधा बांके बिहारी राधा बांके बिहारी राधे। जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा। जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा। जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी नयन पथगामी भव तुम। जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी नयन पथगामी भव तुम। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद। जय जय गुरुदेव 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 गुरुदेव। जय जय गुरुदेव 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 गुरुदेव। निताई गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल। निताई गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल। बोले हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवर धारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवर धारी। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरावन चारी यमुना तीरावन चारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवर धारी। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरावन चारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं, देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्, नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया, भगवतीम् उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। Welcome everyone in Bhagavad Gita class. So in the last session we have covered, we are in chapter 13, chapter 13, sloka number 5 we have done. So we'll start from sloka number 6. So we'll recite the verses with translation, then we'll discuss about verses. 13.5 ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतं छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक् ब्रह्मसूत्रपदश्चैव हेतुम् अद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः. That knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is especially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. Verse number 6 to 7. Mahabhutani ahankaro buddhirvyaktam eva cha indriyani dasa ekam cha panchachendriya gochara. Verse number 7. Ichha dvesa sukham dukham sanghataschetana dhriti etachetram samasena savikaram udahritam. The five great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, and the mind. The five sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms, and convictions. All these are considered, in summary, to be the field of activities and its interaction. Sloka number 8 to 12. Verse number 8. Amanitvam adambhitvam ahimsa shantir arjavam acharyopasanam saucham स्थैर्यम आत्मविनिग्रह. Verse number 9. इंद्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम अनहंकार एव च जन्म मृत्यु जरा व्याधि दुख दोषानुदर्शनम असक्तिर अनभिस्वंगः पुत्रदार गृहादिषु नित्यं च समचित्तत्वम् इष्टम इष्टानुपपत्तिषु मयि चानन्ययोगेन भक्तिर अव्यभिचारिणी विविक्त देश सेवित्वम् अरतिर्जनम संसदि अध्यात्म अध्यात्म ज्ञान नित्यत्वं तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम् एतज् ज्ञानम् इति प्रोक्तं ज्ञानं यदतोऽन्यथा. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation, the object of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest. Even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization and philosophical research for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. Verse number 13. Gyeyam yat tat pravakshami yajagyatva amritam asnute anadim anadimat param brahma na sat uchyate. I shall now explain the knowable, knowing, which you will test, the eternal Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. Verse number 14. Sarvatah panipadam tat sarvato sikshiro mukham sarvatah srutimalloke sarvam abritya tishtati. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the super soul exists, pervading everything. Verse number 15. Sarvendriya gunabhasam sarvendriya vivarjitam asaktam sarvabhrishchaiva nirgunam gunabhoktricha. The super soul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all the modes of material nature. Verse number 16. Bahir antascha bhutanam acharam charam evacha suchmatvat tad vigyeyam durastham chantike cha tat. The supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and non-moving. Because he is subtle, he is beyond the power of material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितां तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण। Once again, welcome everyone in Bhagavad Gita class. So, we are at chapter number 13, verse number 6. So, we'll see first what we have seen in verse number 5. Verse number 5. ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतं छन्दोभिर् छन्दोभि छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक् ब्रह्मसूत्रपदश्चैव हेतुम् अद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः. That knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is especially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. So here Lord Krishna cites the authorities who had said what and what is the authority. So knowledge of Kshetra, Kshetragya, its cause and effect is discussed in Vedic literature, especially by Srila Vyasadeva in Vedanta Sutra. So Srila Vyasadeva has rightly mentioned in Vedanta Sutra the Kshetra and the knowledge who are having about the field. Kshetra is field, and the one who knows Kshetra is known as knower of field. So who is the knower of field? Knower of field is soul and super soul. So super soul is above super soul. Super soul is above soul. So how to identify learned scholars and standard authorities? They always give evidence from past authorities. So if you want to prove something, we always cite from the previous authorities. Those who have given analogies, evidences, we try to prove our statement by their evidence and authorities, and also we write their name. Besides that, Krishna himself, Vyasadeva, is a great sage who explains the concept of duality perfectly in Vedanta Sutra. Vyasadeva's father, Parashar Muni, also a great sage, writes in his books of religiosity, Aham tva cha tathane. So, Vedanta Sutra, writer of Vedanta Sutra is Vyasadeva. He has also mentioned about Kshetra and Kshetragya, and his father Parashar Muni also has explained in his writing about Kshetra and Kshetragya. So this is the how Lord Krishna cites the authorities. So we see that there are 5 seats or coverings of soul. What are the different coverings of soul? Soul is inside, then there is Anandamaya, then there is Vijnanamaya, and then there is Jnanamaya, and then there is Pranamaya, and the outer layer is the Annamaya. So we'll try to understand what are these layers. Brahma Pucham Patishtha. 5 stages of Brahman realization. It is mentioned in Taittiriya Upanishad. So in kosas, realizations and relationship in terms of Kshetra and Kshetragya. So first covering is Annamaya. So Annamaya means food is the supreme object of realization. Example, consciousness of young child or amigo. So let it be adult or let it be a child. Everyone is hungry, and they ask for food. So one covering of soul is Annamaya. Relationship in terms of Kshetra and Kshetragya. So this Annamaya is known as Kshetra, gross body. Covering of soul. Who covers soul? Gross body. So body, the entire body is the cover of soul. So that's why it is known as Kshetra. Then Pranamaya, realizing the supreme absolute truth in living symptoms or life forms. One seeks to preserve his life. Okay, so this is also known as Kshetra, gross body. So Annamaya and Pranamaya both are Kshetra for soul. Okay, Kshetra means what? The one who protects body. So body protects soul. Jnanamaya, realization to the point of thinking, feeling, and willing. Jnanamaya. So jnana is a feeling, is a realization. Okay. One appreciates the subtle incarnations of mind and intelligence, emotions, aesthetics, etc., as ultimate object of realization. The Kshetra is a subtle body. Kshetra is a subtle body in Jnanamaya. The one with which one realizes soul, one realizes truth, whatever object is realized by Jnanamaya. Then comes Vijnanamaya, realization in which the living entity's mind and life symptoms are distinct. What is the difference between mind and life? Are distinguished from the living entity himself. To realize the self as different from the field of activity, including the subtle body. Thus, the soul itself becomes the ultimate object of realization. Kshetragya, individual soul. Kshetragya is individual soul. So, Vijnanamaya, Kshetragya is a Kshetragya. Realize relationship in terms of Kshetra and Kshetragya. So, Vijnanamaya is Kshetragya. Kshetragya means the one who knows about soul, the one who knows about super soul. So it comes under Kshetragya. Individual soul is Vijnanamaya. And Anandamaya is the, so Lord is also known as Sat Chit Anand. Okay, supreme stage of realization of all blissful nature. So Anandmay, wherever there is Anand, is the form of Lord. One realizes the distinction between the self and the supreme self. So what is soul? What is super soul? So it is the supreme realization. Anandmay is supreme realization. And it comes under Kshetragya. And Kshetragya is nothing but super soul. So super soul is the knower of field of activities. Individual soul is also knower of the field of activities. So there are two things, Kshetra and Kshetragya. Okay, so gross body is a Kshetra and super soul, gross body and settled body, these are Kshetra. And individual soul and super soul are Kshetragya. Super soul and soul are knower of gross body and settled body. So what is the field of activities in general? Gross elements kya hai and what is the subtle elements? Okay, so gross element is also known as sthula sarira, panchabhuta, jnanendriya, visaya, karmendriya. So there are 5 gross elements. What are these 5 gross elements? Earth, water, fire, air. So our body is made up of panchabhuta. So these are also known as 5 gross elements. So our body is made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether. So these are 5 gross elements our body consists of. Then comes Jnanendriya, senses. What are the 5 senses? Eyes, ear, nose, tongue, skin. So these are the Jnanendriya. These are the 5 senses. Then comes Vishaya. What are the objects of senses? Tan matras. Tan matras. Roop, form. Shabd, sound. Smell, gandha. Taste, rasa. And touch, sparsha. Roop, shabd, gandh, rasa, sparsha. So these are the 5 objects of senses. Then comes Karmendriya. Working senses. What are the working senses? Hands, legs, voice, anus, genitals. So these are the 5 working senses. So gross elements, Sthul Sarit is divided into 4. Panchabhut, Jnanendriya, Vishaya, Karmendriya. Okay. So there are 5 Karmendriya, there are 5 sense of objects, there are 5 Jnanendriya, and there are 5 gross elements. Okay, then comes subtle elements. What are subtle elements? Sukshma Sarir or Linga Sarir. So gross element is known as Sthul Sarir and subtle elements is known as Sukshma Sarir. So contaminated consciousness, Chitta. Subtle elements, contaminated consciousness, Chitta. Then comes false ego, intelligence, mind. So there are 4 subtle elements: Chitta, false ego, intelligence, mind. And what is the causal body? Karan Sharir, Vasana, unfulfilled desires, Karma, Avidya. So these are the comes under causal body. Gross elements, subtle elements, and Karan Sharira. So what are the components of field of activities? 24 elements. What are these 24 elements? In all, what are these 24 elements? Panch Mahabhut, 5 great elements. Indriya Gocharaha, Charaha, 5 objects of senses. Das Ekam, 11. Das, 5 knowledge acquiring and 5 working senses. Ekam, Manaha. So these are the 11. Das Ekam. Das Ekam. Dashekam, 11. So what are the Dasekam? Senses, eyes, ear, nose, tongue, skin. Working senses, hands, legs, voice, anus, genitals, and mind, Manaha. एकम मनः, mind. 10 ekam. What are the 10 ekam? 5 senses, 5 working senses, and mind, manah. Then buddhi, intelligence, ahankar, false ego, and pradhana. Pradhana. Avyaktam, the unmanifested. The unmanifested. So in this way there are 24 elements. So in verse number 13.6 to 7 it is mentioned. 13.6 to 7. Mahabhutani ahankaro buddhir avyaktam eva cha indriyani dasaekam cha panchachendriya gochara ichha dvesa sukham dukham sanghatascetanadhriti etachetram samasena savikaram udahritam. 5 great elements: false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses and the mind, the 5 sense objects: desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms, and convictions. All these are considered in summary to be field of activities and its interactions. Okay, so in 13.6 to 7, it's talking about 24 elements. Panch Mahabhut, 5 object of senses, 5 knowledge and 5 working senses. Ekam, the Sekam, Manah, mind, Buddhi, intelligence, Ahankar, false ego, Pradhan, Avyaktam, the unmanifested. Okay, so in this way, and transformations of field of activities are non-permanent. Okay, so what are the different? What are the 5 non-permanent? What are the 5 transformations? Birth, grows, stage, produces offspring, dwindles, and death. So these are the 6 changes. 6 changes or 6 transformations: birth, grows, stage, produces offspring, dwindles, and death. Interactions of the field of activities: desire and hatred, happiness and distress. Living symptoms are represented by consciousness and conviction, manifestation of subtle body, mind, intelligence, and false ego. So these are the living symptoms and interaction of the field of activities. Then in the purport, Srila Prabhupada discusses about 13.6 to 7. So what are the interactions and transformations of field of activities? So in Bhagavad Gita 13.6 explains what the field of activities consists of. So in 13.6 we are going to see what it consists of. Then 13.7 explains the transformations and the interactions of the field of activities. And the 13.7 talks about, explains the transformations. There are 6 transformations and the interactions of the field of activities. How they interact, what are the different things, what are the different components. Central theme of the purport indicates that field or body is a non-permanent. So field is not permanent. So we say that this body is going to be finished at the end of life. But soul is eternal. Soul never dies. Body dies, but soul never dies. No one can kill soul. Okay. In earlier slokas, we have seen how our soul is protected. And how field or body is a non-permanent material things. And Kshetrajna or knower of the field is different from the field. So there are 2 things. If you take, for example, this body, so body is separate, soul is separate. Okay, so there are two things, body and soul. So body is a kshetra and soul is a kshetragya. So soul is knower of the body. What are the components of field of activities? 5 great elements, 5 sense objects, 11 senses including mind, that is known as das ekam. Das ekam. Okay, das ekam. Intelligence and false ego, unmanifested stage of 3 modes called pradhana. Unmanifested stage of 3 modes called pradhana. So what is the 3 mode? 3 modes of material nature? Rajogun, Satogun, Rajogun and Tamogun. Okay. So Rajogun, Satogun means goodness. Rajogun means passion. And Tamogun means ignorance. So Satogun, Rajogun, Tamogun, goodness, passion, ignorance. So what are the interactions of gross and subtle body? Gross body desire, hatred, happiness, distress. So gross body belongs to duality. Subtle body, living symptoms represented by consciousness and conviction. So gross body and subtle body, these are the interactions of gross and subtle body. Pradhana, 5 great elements are gross representations of false ego, technically called as materialistic conception or tamas buddhi. Intelligence in ignorance, which represents unmanifested 3 modes called pradhana. So 3 modes of material nature are known as pradhana. So they are pramukh, that's why they are known as pradhana. Satogun, Rajogun, Tamogun. Goodness, passion, ignorance. So these are the 3 modes of material nature. What are the basis of this knowledge? Authorities as per Bhagavad Gita 13.5 translation. Okay, so in verse number 13.5, various authorities have proved about the kshetra and kshetragya, field and the knower of the field of activities. FOA, field of activities. So what are the 6 changes in the body? Takes birth, grows, stage, byproducts, decay, and death. So these are the vikaras. So these are the 6 transformations. Nothing is permanent in this world. They belong to the 6. They come, and once at the end of the day, they will go. At the end of life symptoms, they will leave. Okay, so these are the things explained by Srila Prabhupada in the purport of verse number 6 and 7. Then verse number 13.8 to 13.12, Krishna's further answers to question 5, the process of knowledge and liberation. What is the process of knowledge and liberation? How one can get knowledge and can be liberated from this material mode of nature or this material world. The process by which the knower of the field, the soul, transcends the limitations of his field of activity is called the process of knowledge. Soul knows the body and soul directs the body, says you should do this, do that, like that. So this process includes humility and pridelessness, as well as its most important item, accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and practicing unalloyed devotional service under his care. So what is the process of knowledge? Mentioned in 13.8 to 12. 13.8 to 12. Amanitvam adambhitvam ahimsa chantir arjavam acharyopasanam saucham stharyam atva vinigraha. Verse number 9. Indriyarthe suvairagyam anahankara evacha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukha doshanudarshanam Verse number 10. Asaktir anabhishwangah putradara grihadishu nityam ta samachittatvam ishtana ishtopapattisu मयि चानन्ययोगेन भक्तिरव्यभिचारिणी विविक्तदेशसेवित्वम् अरतिर्जनसंसदीम् आध्यात्म अज्ञाननित्यत्वम् तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम् एतज्ज्ञानम् इति प्रोक्तम् ज्ञानं यदतोऽन्यथा humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest. Even mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events. Constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place. Detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. Okay, so in 13.8 to 12, there are many qualities or the process of knowledge is mentioned. Individual cultivation of these qualities mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 13.8 to 12 is the real method of acquiring knowledge. So how to acquire knowledge? What is the process? What are the qualities you should have? What are the different properties that support to this knowledge? Anything speculated beyond these items of knowledge is ignorance. If someone says that I can tell you the best process, then that is the part of ignorance. Verse number 8 to 12, discussion in the purport. So now Srila Prabhupada explains the process of acquiring knowledge. The process of acquiring knowledge is what is real process of acquiring knowledge. Cultivation of these qualities mentioned in verse 8 to 12 is the real method of acquiring knowledge. So whatever is mentioned, verse number 8 to 12 is the real process of acquiring knowledge. What should be sadhaka's consciousness? Be convinced that I am subordinate. So you have to become das. So once you surrender, you will get knowledge. So this is part of surrendering, is a part of acquiring knowledge. Humility is the beginning of knowledge. So humility is the beginning of knowledge. So anyone who wants to compete with God and is still advanced will be frustrated. Okay, so no one should dare to compete with God. God is God. God is only one. Others are subordinate. So you have to become das of Krishna. You have to surrender unto the lotus feet of Krishna. You have to surrender to God, to Lord Krishna, unto the lotus feet of spiritual Guru. Only Guru can tell you that he is God. And the Guru should belong to Parampara system. How to test one's progress? Judge by qualities like humility and pridelessness. Okay, judge by qualities like humility and pridelessness. So if you want to at all test any particular devotee, how much quality he is having, so by his pridelessness you can check. What is ignorance? Anything speculated beyond these items of knowledge is nonsense. Is a nonsense. So whatever process of acquiring knowledge is mentioned in verse number 8 to 12 is the real process. One has to accept it. and other than this is the ignorance. So how to do the process of Krishna consciousness? Help sadhaka. The process of Krishna consciousness makes home life very pleasant, especially chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If you chant at your home Hare Krishna Mahamantra daily, you will feel the transformation happening in your household life. Your relationship with your wife, your children, your daughter, your parents will show that you are in knowledge or not. So one has to follow verse number 8 to 12 of chapter number 13. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity. So these are the qualities of a bhakta, of a Vaishnava. Okay, so these are the process of acquiring knowledge. Now, how less intelligent person perceive this, less intelligence understand this process as interaction of the field of activity. They consider is only interaction of field of activity. Acquisition of knowledge involves proper bodily and mental behavior, and therefore one may wrongly deem it as a parcel of field of activity. Okay, so because of ignorance, one can acquire it in different ways. However, since these perfect actions liberates jiva from body, we do not count them as part and parcel of bodily activities. Okay, so these are not the perfect process. Okay, so that is the Srila Prabhupada has discussed in text number 8 to 12. What is the process of acquiring knowledge and how these processes are perceived by less intelligent people. Less intelligent people understand this process as interaction of the field of activity. So they misunderstand this process of acquiring knowledge. Then what is the process of knowledge? Number one, quality. Amanitvam, verse number 6.8. Not to be anxious, to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. Never ever expect that someone will give me respect. Humility. You should be ready for humiliation. If you are humiliated, it means God is testing you. Then second is pridelessness. Adambhitvam. Not to be anxious to be famous for one's religion and entering into a group, not actually following principles and waiting to advertise as a religious man. Just for becoming popular, famous, you are following dharma. You are wearing the cloth of bhakta, sannyasi. Okay, that is wrong process. Pridelessness should be there. Then comes non-violence, ahimsa. Not to put others into this. Don't give distress to anyone. Maybe your enemy, maybe your friend. You have to treat everyone equally. Unless one elevates one to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. So Srila Prabhupada says here, if you are not in a devotional service, you are putting others in distress because your mind is not steady. Okay, and if you are putting others in distress, it means you are not following ahimsa. Try your best to distribute real knowledge. Tolerance, shantir. Be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others, like Prahlad Maharaj. So Prahlad Maharaj was really tolerant. He was humiliated by his own father. Prahlad Maharaj belongs to Asur family. Hiranyakashipu was an Asur. But being belong from a Asur family, Prahlad Maharaj became a great devotee of Lord. It was the mercy of Lord Naradji. So then comes Arjavam, simplicity. So straightforward that you can disclose the real truth even to an enemy without diplomacy. So you should be simple. Don't tell a lie. Be straightforward. Accepting a spiritual master. Acharyo Pashanam, essential quality. Approach spiritual master with all humility and offer all services without diplomacy. Accepting a spiritual master. So you have to surrender in front of spiritual guru, under the lotus feet of spiritual guru. Spiritual guru is a representative of Supreme Lord Krishna. If you have got a spiritual guru, it means Krishna is standing in front of you. And only the condition is that spiritual guru must belong to a parampara. A person who doesn't belong, a spiritual guru doesn't belong to parampara, cannot be a spiritual guru. That is not the definition of a spiritual guru. If he bestows blessings, that will make it easier to follow all the regulatory principles and one immediately advances. Cleanliness, saucham, bathing external and chanting internal. If you take a bath, it means external cleanliness. If you chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it is the internal cleanliness. Start chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, you can be cleaned internally. And that is where the real process of knowledge. Then comes steadiness, stharyam, determined to make progress in spiritual life. So you should be steady that I am going to progress. I am going to see Lord Krishna. I am going to have a spiritual guru. I will associate with devotees. I will serve in temple. That kind of steadiness should be there. Self-control. Atma vinigraha. Self-control. Atma vinigraha. Reject anything unfavorable to spiritual advancement. Self-control. No, I will not do this. Will not help me to progress in spiritual life. Self-control should be there. No jalebi, no papada. Okay, so that kind of control should be there. Laulyam should not be there. Greediness should not be there. I want to have all the material things in my house and I can progress in spiritual life also. That is not possible. Renunciation of sense objects. Indriyartheshu vairagyam. Indriyartheshu vairagyam. Renunciation of sense objects. Not cater to unnecessary demands. Whatever you need, God has already given you. You don't think that you have tried a lot for that. God will give. You just keep on doing, God will give you whatever is required minimum for survival. Cater the demands only to keep body fit for devotional service. Okay? Don't run behind the money. How to control? Engage by a systematic regulation. Especially chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, eating prasad. Indriyartheshu vairagyam can be done only by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra and eating prasadam. Offered meal. You should accept only offered meal. That is known as Mahaprasad. Accept only Mahaprasad. Absence of false ego. Anahankara. Reject I am this body, mind, etc. Accept I am a servant of Krishna. Anahankara. Ahankar. There is no ahankar. Be dependent on Krishna. Everything belongs to Krishna. I am servant of Krishna. Become das. Dasanudas, dasanudas, dasanudas. Servant of, servant of, servant of, servant of Krishna. Perception of evils of birth, death, disease, old age. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi. Dukha dosanudarshanam. Must regularly hear about these topics from proper source. Then comes detachment, asaktir. Be ready to sacrifice everything for Krishna. If you get an option that you want Krishna or material thing, you should always choose Krishna. No entanglement with wife, children, car, bangla. Anabhiswangaha putra dara grihadeshu. Affection is natural. Renounce if not favorable for spiritual advancement. Example, Arjuna is asked to renounce family connections. Although everyone belongs to Arjuna's family, they are Kaurav and Arjuna is also Kaurav. Only because of these 5 brothers, they have got the name of Pandav. Otherwise, Pandavas are also Kaurav because they become the Kaurav family. So, Krishna is saying, don't relate with the adharmis. They are adharmi. You are dharmi. You are a Kshatriya. You are an administrator. So, it is your duty to protect dharma. And maybe your family members part of that adharma. So, you have to kill them. Even-mindedness, samachittatvam, not elated to distress or material gain or loss, possible by performing unbreakable devotional service. Even-mindedness, samachittatvam, that mind will help you to progress in spiritual life. Unalloyed devotional service, ananya bhakti. Always engage yourself in Krishna's service. Aspiring to live in a solitary place. Not desiring to mix with materialistic men. Living in the association of devotees. Chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Giving service in temple. Detachment from general masses. Not desire to mix with materialistic men. Living in the association of devotees. Accepting the importance of self-realization, adhyatma jnana, give up necessary, unnecessary sporting, cinema going, social activities, such wastage of time. Philosophical search for the absolute truth, tattva jnanartha darsanam. Rejection of useless research of philosophical topics like sex life, etc. Research into the nature of soul by philosophical discretion. Lord Krishna declared all these above to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. So Lord Krishna himself is declaring. So 9 processes of devotional service. What are the 9 processes? Hearing, okay, that is Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoha, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. Okay, so these are the 9 processes: Sravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. So this is known as 9 process, Navadha Bhakti. Sravanam, hearing, Parikshit Maharaj. Vishnu Kirtanam, chanting or glorifying, Sukdev Goswami. Smaranam, remembering Prahlad Maharaj. Pad Sevanam, Lakshmi Devi, serving Lord's lotus feet. Archanam, Maharaj Prithu, deity worship. Vandanam, Akrura, praying. Dasyam, Hanumanji, becoming servant. Sakhyam, friendship, Arjuna. Atma Nivedanam, complete surrender, like Bali Maharaj. So these are known as 9 processes of devotional service. Okay. Process of knowledge, summary. Number 1, Sanskrit, English, and applicable to. So number 1, Amanitvam. So Amanitvam is known as humility, and it is applicable to devotees, Jnanis. Adhambhitvam, Adambh, Adhambh, pridelessness, devotees. Ahimsa, non-violence. Shanti है tolerance. Arjavam, simplicity. Acharyopasanam, approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Saucham, cleanliness. Stharyam, steadfastness. Atma vinigraha, self-control. Indriyartheshu vairagyam, renunciation in the object. Indriyartheshu, renunciation in the objects of senses. Anahankara, absence of false ego. Janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi, dukha, dosanudarshanam, the perception of evil of birth, death, old age, and disease. Asakti hai, detachment. Anabhiswangah, putradara grihadishu, freedom from entanglement of child, wife, home, and rest. Nityam cha samachittatvam, event-mindedness, and pleasant and unpleasant events. Mai cha ananya yogena bhaktir avyavicharini, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, Krishna, devotee. Vivikta desh servitvam, sevitvam, aspiring to live in a solitary place. Arati jana samsadi, detachment from general mass of people. Adhyatma jnana, accepting the importance of self-realization. Tattva jnana, philosophical search for the absolute truth. Jnanish. Okay, so we'll start. Stop over here. If you have any question, you can ask. श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्णा।